Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone is well. Welcome to day one of the coaching summit. What a day it has been so far. It's been absolutely amazing. The attendance has been amazing. The speakers have been amazing. Like, we could not ask for any more. Yes, fantastic. So whether you are here for the first session or you've been with us all day, a really warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us. All of our sessions will allow you to enable captions if you wish. So I'm going to jump right on now and introduce our new speaker for the session today, which is Susie Boutal, who is here with ADH-D-Cluttering through coaching, clear mind and clear space. Welcome, Susie. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm going to hand over to you.
Lovely. Thank you, Shelley. And yeah, nice to be here. Thank you. So I'm Susie. I'm here to talk to you about the links between ADHD and clutter. Before we kind of get into it, before I introduce myself and get stuck in, I'd love to hear from you, maybe just in the chat, what you're kind of expecting, what you're hoping for from today, maybe what clutter means to you. So yeah, I'd love to see what you think. And while you do that, I'm going to try and share my slides.
That's great, Susie. We've got that. Thank you.
Working, thank you. I'm just going to open the chat. So yeah, so supporting others, lack of focus, mental clutter. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of more than just the stuff. Right, and some of you coming with neurodivergent people in your families. ADHD title, yeah. Great. So if I perhaps just give you a brief introduction then to me. So as you know, I'm Susie, mum of 3 living in North Hampshire. I was diagnosed with ADHD last summer. Kind of enabled a few things in my life to kind of fall into place. So I guess I've always intuitively decluttered to simplify things. So I've needed it to kind of think straight, to achieve anything, just to get anything done, really. It's always been my kind of go-to. And then coupled with this, I've always been in kind of a helper role. So whether it's my day job, helping others do coaching, I just love being able to help and support others, especially when it's something that I find comes more easily to me or it's one of my strengths. So my journey into decluttering itself began in probably 2015, so in that kind of business space. Started off with an eBay business. This led me to decluttering in people's homes. Good for generating their business for the eBay. And then I found coaching through my day job, which kind of up-leveled that decluttering experience that I could give people. COVID obviously then came along, stopped me going into people's homes. So I put together an online decluttering coaching business. And then following my diagnosis, and I guess working with lots of people, neurodivergent and neurotypical, but it just seemed to be more of those kind of neurodivergent people in that space, kind of naturally put 2 and 2 together and kind of found that link between ADHD and clutter. So I guess that's kind of the background as to how we've got to today and defining that link. So I just click through. So one thing I'd kind of ask you to think about as we go through is, what does it all mean for you? Because I can kind of sit here and tell you what it means to me, what I think, kind of what my experiences have led me to. But in terms of what it means for you, both in terms of ADHD, whether that's something you identify with or not, but also clutter, and what in your life could you call as clutter and how it's kind of showing up. So yeah, and I guess for me, it's kind of, it is personal and it does take many forms. And I guess that maybe similar to you as well. So I'll just share with you a quote, which I guess kind of sums up for me, yeah, what it does mean for me. So it's not just that stuff on the floor; it's anything that's kind of getting in the way of, yeah, you and what you want to be doing. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any kind of thoughts or questions that they want to share at this point. Anything in the chat, Shelley, that's kind of stuck out, do you think?
Lots of comments in there, obviously just talking about, as you asked previously, what they think decluttering is.
Yeah,
Lots of people saying that about discovering being ADHD through diagnosis of family members, etc. So that's what we've covered so far.
yeah. Oh, and Stuart wants me to sit close to the microphone. I'll
Say, can
pull
you sit a
myself
bit closer to your
together.
microphone? It's just going in and out slightly.
Yeah, I think it's my signal perhaps, but yeah, hopefully I'll speak up a little bit and should be able to hear me. Great. So, as we've kind of seen, it's anything that's getting in our way. So it could be physical, mental, or emotional. And when I coach, it's holistic, so it's all three. And I do find if you don't tackle the three at once, then you just don't get that long-term results. So I guess people ask me if I'm an organizer. No, because I don't. Organizing things that you don't necessarily want kind of is just scratching that surface of what's actually happening. So if we think about physical, then that's obviously things you can see physically in front of you. It's that stuff around you. The mental side of clutter can be linked to beliefs that we hold, barriers that we're putting in our own way, things that we think are possible or not, are also kind of thoughts that may or may not be helping us. How we see the world, churning mind, worries, patterns of thinking that are kind of stopping us moving forward. And then when we think about the emotional clutter, again, this is things we feel. So it's that unprocessed emotions, maybe overwhelm, shame, guilt, things like that, that are stopping us from doing the things that we would otherwise do. And so not to say that there are any good or bad emotions, that there's not. It's more about emotional means kind of that energy emotion, and we have to listen in and see what those emotions are trying to tell us, but process them rather than kind of keep them stuck with us. So hopefully that makes some sense. So obviously there are physical, mental, and emotional things that are useful to us, and when they become not useful or they're stopping us, then that's when they become clutter. So that's kind of just to give you my kind of definition, if you like. So why is it so hard? And I guess clutter exists for everyone. So wherever you feel you are, neurotypical, neurodivergent, we've all got clutter. And there are some reasons why it can be harder for someone who does have a neurodivergence such as ADHD. Lots of reasons. I've kind of tried to group them into these 5 main sections, which I'll just give you a quick rundown of. It sounds like many of you have quite a good idea and lived in personal experience of it anyway, so probably just reaffirming some of the things that you already know. And just to say, obviously, that I'm not a medical person. I am a trained ADHD coach and, of course, have my own lived experience. Whether you have ADHD or not, you may struggle with similar things. And obviously, we're all different. So this is just based on my research, my experiences, and what I've found. So I guess take or leave what resonates. So if we start with executive function, I think this is probably the most well-known part of ADHD, and reasons why it can affect your relationship with clutter, whether how much you have, how easy or hard you find it to deal with. So we can have quite an all or nothing brain. So what I mean by that is it's either all good or it's all bad. We're all in or we're all out. We either do it now or we don't. It's that kind of makeup that we have. There's also something around time blindness. So it can be really difficult to estimate how long something might take. Um, Time itself can be quite an odd concept for someone with ADHD. There's also a sort of pattern of being in limbo until the thing happens later in the day, which then kind of puts out some of the other hours that you may have had to be able to put to use beforehand. Not today, of course. I've been finishing my slides this morning. Couldn't jump into that, but some of those things do happen. There's also something around prioritization. So knowing what to do first, where to start, how to break a task down, working out what's important and what's important to do when, those kind of things can be difficult. Getting started, keeping going, and finishing tasks. So all of those parts of doing something can represent hurdles in terms of achieving at those points. Decluttering is also a cyclical job. So what I mean by that is it's similar to, I guess, laundry, for example, where it's never complete. There's never a point you can say, oh, I'm done forever now. Laundry's off my list because, if you're wearing clothes, that'll be laundry. So again, those cyclical jobs don't give you that dopamine end point that can be more motivating. There's also with ADHD some kind of attraction to new and shiny things, different interests, varied things that we want to get stuck into. And it's quite difficult sometimes to know if you're kidding yourself that this is the one thing you're going to apply yourself to. Everything seems at the beginning that it's going to be your thing. So again, that just encourages the build-up of different things in your home, different things in your brain that you're going to be focusing on. Also linked to hyperfocus, of course, where you can kind of go down rabbit holes with things and time just disappears and you become a new expert on something. But again, that creates clutter in terms of those thought patterns as well as the stuff that you might acquire along the way. So that's executive function. I put historical here. So it's historical in terms of the person, but also in terms of society. We're kind of in an age at the moment where we fix things by buying things. Also linked chronologically, there was some research that kind of suggests that between the ages, I think it's between 20 and 40, is when you're acquiring things into your life. So whether you have different job roles, maybe having a family, maybe buying a house, and it's that period of life where you do acquire things, and coupled with the societal way of spending money and buying things to kind of solve problems, it can obviously add to clutter. Also, in terms of the person themselves, people with ADHD and neurodiversities in general actually are more likely to have had difficult episodes in their lives, perhaps traumatic things, which again can affect a person's ability and relationship with things. So if we move on now to the view of self, so as I said, people with neurodiversities often have other complications such as mental health conditions, also might have challenges managing energy. I referred before to that all good or all bad kind of sense of being, which can create difficult relationship with yourself in terms of how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself, how you value yourself and what you feel you might be worth. Different things can deplete our energy. So it could be social situations, it could be doing detailed work. So lots of different things that can make it more difficult for somebody with ADHD. It also can be harder to have that compassion for yourself. So if you've spent years feeling like you're not quite the same, you don't fit in, perhaps you're stupid or you should just try harder, you start to believe that the problem lies in yourself. So how you view yourself may affect how you then deal with things as you go through your life. And again, a lot of these aspects can affect your relationships. There can be a lack of understanding. Your support network might be different. You might have fewer people that you can really be yourself with. Any work that you do outside the home, again, you have to kind of fit into that employment model, which can, again, be difficult. So finally, we'll just have a quick look at those emotional factors. So as I said before, there's no good or bad emotions, but the way somebody with ADHD might deal with emotions can be different from others. So there's something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which you may or may not have heard about. This is basically explained as if something happens that the person wasn't expecting. So it could just be somebody seemed to look at them a bit differently, or an idea that they felt excited about wasn't received in the same way. It could be simple things like those, can create a feeling of real devastation, quite unproportional to what's happened. But that's kind of a comorbidity, I suppose, that can cause emotions to be a bit dysregulated. People with ADHD are also more prone to burnout, emotional and physical, impulsivity, which may resonate with some. So, you go all into something with your impulses. And the lack of middle ground with emotions as well can result in that dysregulation of relations with others, having those different conversations. You can kind of react in a way that you perhaps on reflection would rather have not. And I guess in terms of that attachment to stuff, there can be more of a collector kind of feeling about things. So we want to have all the same of something, or it's maybe our new hobby that we collect certain things, which can be linked as well to emotions. So I've talked quite a lot there. I don't know if there's things going on in the chat that people are either resonating with or adding their own thoughts.
I can share some with you, Susie. So Lucy says I can become perfectionist and over ambitious when it comes to tidying up and then bite off more than I can chew and exhaust myself. I assume that's related to being bad at breaking down the tasks effectively before I start. And then Heather has said, same here, that point of being all in or all out has really hit home with me. If I can't do it perfectly, I might as well not bother.
Yes, yeah, that's really common. And I think there's something around if you've only got X amount of time, because the task isn't broken down necessarily, it feels that you can't do anything. So, I was talking to someone the other day who said, oh, if I've only got an hour, well, I can't declutter my house in an hour. But on the flip side, an hour could be a really good length of time to get quite a lot done. And I think it's just preparing in advance what you might do with certain lengths of time. Because even the time the kettle boils, there's something to do if you want, if you want to. But yeah.
Can you just reiterate the name of the emotional regulation challenge again, please?
Oh, so there's rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And I also mentioned emotional dysregulation. So that's a kind of state where you don't want to carry down a path of maybe getting upset or angry, but it's not necessarily as in your control. So we just call that, dysregulation. I hope that was the one you meant.
That's great, thank you. And just one last one from Abs, as my OCD can cause my girls to struggle with my perfectionism and structured lifestyle. It triggers their neurodiversity and it can at times be too much due to my upbringing coming from military background. I grew up having to follow a strict regime from a very young age.
Yeah, exactly. It's that historical part mixing with the different mental health challenges, the different neurodiversities, and it can come together in a bit of a perfect storm sometimes. And the more you understand yourself, can help. It's not going to cure everything, but I think just having that understanding and knowing why you react a certain way or why your children react a certain way, I think can help. Knowledge is power, I guess. So I'll just go to the next one. So let's have a look at some of the myths around clutter. And this goes for everyone, wherever you kind of come into this from. So the first myth that I like to dismiss with people is the myth of time. We all have the same amount of time. Time is a bit like the weather. It just exists. We can't control the weather. We can't control the time passing. All we can do is control what we do with it and what we choose to do about it. So time itself is not the problem. The second myth here, represented by this cat, is the myth of laziness. So I don't believe in laziness. I think it's often a stick that we beat ourselves up with, especially when we're mentally and physically and emotionally busy. We've got lots to do, lots to think about. We don't need to tell ourselves that we're lazy. So it might be that you need some rest. It might be that you need more motivation. It might be just that you have a lot of priorities. Those are things we can work on rather than telling ourselves we're lazy. And then the final myth is storage. So many of the people I work with will say, oh, I just had a bigger house or more storage. Well, if we're dealing with clutter, you just need less of it, is my kind of answer. I mean, storage is great when it's stuff you use, stuff you want to keep. But let's not see storage as a solution for clutter, I guess is what I say. On the flip side, we do have the non-myths or the not myths, as I've written here. So again, as I said before, time can be an issue. Time blindness, the limbo feeling, estimating time, prioritizing, they are real challenges. So again, there's a not myth there as well. And with the laziness side of things, we do have to manage our energy and mental health differently. We do have to work a bit harder to find that compassion sometimes and allow ourselves to take that rest. So it may not be laziness, but there is a need for some rest and understanding of ourselves. And then with storage, as I said before, it's the modern age of buying all the things, getting the nice baskets or whatever that's kind of recommended. And with ADHD, you may find that you do have more stuff because of all the interest, because of the things you buy in an impulse moment. But again, it's just making sure that what you are storing is purposefully done and because you want to keep the thing. And it's not about being minimalist. It's about consciously choosing to have things because you want them. I think there's another phrase or another quote about keeping things that are either useful or beautiful. So yeah, I think as long as you're choosing the things you have, then it's not clutter, I guess. Any kind of reflections or thoughts there that anyone has? Oh, Lucy Sampson, you should see my attic. Yeah. Yeah, I think with clutter, those kind of stuff away in boxes and things, it's often decisions that you haven't wanted to make yet, or you're not sure, unmade decisions, I guess, can be represented in clutter. Um, so we'll do a little exercise. We are 4 minutes ahead of where I'd hoped. So we do have a little bit more time, which is good. So as many of you are probably coaches in training, you may have seen this wheel of life before. So I use it in my work as wheel of clutter. So it's just a simple circle cut into 8 segments, or you can do however many segments you like, really. And what I would ask, if you feel like it, is to name each section as one specific type of clutter. So it could be feelings that come up often. It could be thoughts that you do think are maybe keeping you stuck, or it could be physical clutter. I think some people have mentioned certain parts of the house, or you could choose a category such as clothes, kids' stuff, paperwork. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes if you can draw out a simple circle and then just label each section. And then if you give each section a score between 1 to 10, either as to how good it is or how bad it is, whatever kind of scale you want to use, but just so you've got an idea in your mind as to how much it's bothering you right now. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to think about that. And I don't have any lovely music like one of the ladies had earlier, I'm afraid. Just having a look back through the chat, and I think Steph, your comment here about not recognizing your clutter until you're overwhelmed with it. And I think there's something on an advert for Febreze where they talk about being nose blind, and I think it's quite common to be clutter blind if you're referring to the physical stuff, because you just get used to your surroundings being how they are. So it can just kind of creep up, and then almost suddenly there's that realization of the stuff and the job ahead of you. Emily, yes, I think procrastination does count as clutter, but I might ask to kind of getting under the skin of that procrastination of what are the thoughts and feelings that are creating that environment. So if there's a particular thing that you're procrastinating about, digging into the thoughts and feelings. So you might be procrastinating because you don't know where to start. It might be like you don't want to do the job. It might be, yeah. So kind of digging into that procrastination, I would probably say there's something in there to investigate. Yeah, hopefully everyone has got some things down on their oh, has that just gone black? Just let me
Yeah,
come.
end of slideshow, it says.
Right, let me just try that again. Sorry. Don't know what happened there.
It's okay. We're here for all the technical faults.
Good. So now I'm not sharing anything. So let me try that.
I'm just going to pick up on a couple of are in the chat there. We've had Heather say, I love the quote, your home is living space, not storage space. Love that one. And then we've got IB. She said, we can convince ourselves we want something over and over for years, ending up with more and more clutter to get rid of. So true.
Yeah, one thing I say to people is treat the world as your warehouse. You don't need to have everything like 100 toothpastes or all of that stuff because it's there. Right, is that back on now? Are we
We're back to the cost of clutter.
excellent? So the next question to ask yourself or kind of reflect on maybe is what are these forms of clutter costing you? So it may be that some of them are lower scored, but maybe giving you different impacts. You know, maybe you're not having people over, maybe you're not looking for that next job or promotion, maybe it's, you know, maybe there's other things that you're not doing because of these things. And it's not clicking. Try one more time. Oh, there we go. And then what could you do or achieve without the clutter? So I guess it's a similar question, but first of all, thinking about the negative and then on the flip side, the positive. So things to, yeah, just reflect on and think about. And again, if anyone wants to share any reflections or anything there, please do.
We've had Ben say, I've made some great progress with some clutter by selling clothes on Vinted, made £160, which I'm planning to put towards a holiday. What a great motivation.
Amazing. Yeah, there's cash in the house. Cool. I'm just gonna try and there we go. So when you come to think about what you might do with the information that you've discovered, and you might think about setting some goals. So just a few things. And again, I'm not trying to teach you kind of how to suck eggs. I think we're all quite familiar with the goal setting process. But I think with decluttering, especially, we don't do it because we love decluttering. It's because of what it gives us. So I try and say to people, ask yourself why 3 times with each goal that you want to achieve. So you may think, right, I've decided my clothes are my issue. I want to get rid of half of them. So then ask yourself why. What's it going to give you? Oh, maybe more space in the wardrobe, maybe some cash, you know, in return. And then again, why? And with Ben's perfect example there, well, the why is because it's for his holiday. So he gets more spending money, or, you know, that's a just break it down as much as you can to make sure you're really clear. It will give you the motivation and stop you procrastinating, perhaps, if you are clear on why you're going to do it. Consider the impact again. So relate it back to some of these things you're going to achieve when you're clutter free or when your clutter is minimized. Think about what in your life will be better and different. And obviously, we need to think about the things that are in our control. So that's your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. And yes, things happen, you know, we have busy lives, we have other people that we need to think about. we can't control anything outside of ourselves. So making sure you're aware of when you are thinking about things, are you thinking about things in a way that's helpful? Are you doing things that are going to take you towards less clutter? You know, because you could do all the hard work, but you're still buying things on Amazon at midnight. So it's that kind of thinking about all of those things. Not to say you can't, but just if that's your goal, is it actually helping? Obstacles. So again, this can be curveballs from life. You know, we have other priorities. You may decide, oh, Saturday morning, I'm going to do an hour in my bedroom. Somebody invites you out for brunch. Go for brunch. Like, priorities here. Like, we're never going to put decluttering before those, you know, health things, fun things, because it can't be that high. But if you want to get to it, it needs to be somewhere. So again, it's thinking about what might come up and how you're going to deal with it. And you might decide, well, if it's this person, then I'll go, but if it's not, then I won't. So thinking in advance about what might get in your way. And then resources. So again, do you live with people that could help? Do you live with people that could hinder? Have you got friends that could be accountability support to you to get things done? There was one of my clients actually had a friend round for a cup of tea and said, you sit there and drink your tea, I'm just going to be shredding my paperwork. So it's that kind of thing to kind of just bring people in where you can to help you. And of course, there's me as a resource. So I have put together a little area on my website which has some freebies just for you guys. So there's a quiz to help you discover your biggest clutter challenge. May confirm what you've found today. It may surprise you. You might want to have a go. There's a decluttering goal setting workshop, a worksheet, which again, quite simple. Probably the format is very familiar, but it might just help you get some of these thoughts out. I can offer a free 20-minute call. So if you've got thoughts bubbling around, if you want to put together an action plan that you're going to not procrastinate over, then I'd be more than happy to talk to you as well. And yeah, lots more freebies, blogs, things on there. So there's a QR code there, which I hope should take you to the right place on the website. If not, there's some details there as well. So luckily, Shelley, it's still beginning with a 2, the time, I mean. But yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions or anything in the chat that I can help with.
Yeah, we've got some more in the chat there. So, Sabina, what if you have clutter with your thoughts around ideas and goals? I have a lot, but I don't progress.
Yeah, so that's really common. Having ADHD, I can really understand how that feels like. And I think, again, it's getting the thoughts and ideas and goals out of your head, working out what's coming up at what point, what feels important, and making those decisions on each one as to what you're going to do with it. And sometimes, just like you would with physical clutter, you know, am I keeping it? Am I selling it? Am I binning it? You've got to do the same with your thoughts as well and work out, is it clutter or is it something I want to action? And when we come up with an action, what I like to try and encourage clients to do is put it in your diary when you're going to do it and what you're going to do. So often, I guess with stuff that we want to donate, for example, oh, it goes by a pile and then it does nothing happens. But it's writing in your diary when you're dropping it at the charity shop. Are you going to fit it in around a different journey? Or well, you can book doorstep collections these days, but it's just making sure that you've written down when you're going to do it. Is really key to actually getting it done. So clutter with your thoughts around ideas and goals. I would probably, if you want a tip, I might say just get it out. Give yourself some time, whether it's a piece of paper, whether you record yourself, whether you ask someone to just take notes, if it's easier to process maybe with your eyes closed, that kind of thing, and just get it all out. And then as a separate task, don't try and do it at the same time. Go through that list and work out what's maybe is for now, what's for later, what's most, what's the priority. Just as you would kind of sorting your wardrobe or something. But I hope that helps a little bit.
We've had Steve say, interesting exercise. All of my wheel is filled with the internal mental clutter, yet the feedback I get at home is that I am a total pack rat. Your point about blind spots is very insightful and perhaps a bit close to home.
Oh, I'm not sure I know that phrase, total pack rat. But blind spots, yeah. I think especially when we're used to it. So it could be personality things, it could be the house, things like that. That when they're very present for us, we just stop seeing them. Yeah.
And then we have one as well from IB. I've been holding on to a lot of my toddler's things because I plan to have another, not sure when. Working out what to give and keep is an obstacle.
Yeah, sometimes when it reminds us of a person or a time, it's really hard. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I do say, don't ever get rid of anything that you don't want to, because that obviously causes more issues down the road. But you do have to be ready to let go of things. And you have to come from a positive and strong place to let go. There's a lot of kind of psychology around letting go, kind of scarcity mindset, fear of what might come in its place, or if you're going to let one thing go, then everything's, there's so much there. We did actually in the Facebook group last month, we were looking at letting go. So you might find some tips in there.
There's been lots in the chat just giving you thanks and saying what a fabulous session it is, but this one particularly stood out from Lisa. This has been fabulous, beautifully delivered, packed with useful insights and a great tool. You have a wonderful presence and energy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.
Thought that was lovely to share. But yeah, so many comments in there for you, Susie, and thank you everybody for the fantastic insights that you've shared with us today as well. It's been amazing. So many people have been able to say, oh, how great it is that to see other people are having the same thoughts as well.
Yeah, and we don't talk about it enough, I think, because of the not necessarily shame for everyone, but there's something personal around our stuff, whether it's physical or mental. So it is difficult to talk about. But yeah, I'm glad it's been useful. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the freebies and things. Hope they help.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Susie. It's just been, yeah, been a fantastic session and for helping declutter our lives. I know I certainly need to declutter my brain and my attic as well. So I'll be getting on with that and certainly taking your quiz, that's for sure. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us today as well. I'm just going to share with you just a little bit for In Good Company. So obviously we have our Q&As on Friday. You would have seen the details in your emails. So we have two sessions, one at 9:30, which is with Zoe about training to be a coach, and the other one at 12:30 with Joe, which is about our CPD courses, emotion coaching practitioner training, and our foundations of group and team coaching. So if you want to join us for those, check your emails for the details, for the links for those ones. Once again, thank you so much, Susie, and thank you everyone for joining us today. It's been amazing to see everyone, and I look forward to seeing some of you, no doubt, on one of the next sessions. Thanks, everybody.